Think twice before clicking the reply all button. A new report details the carbon cost of our data use. You might not be able to see the cloud, but the massive data farms that store and relay our media need loads of electricity to run. Unwanted photos, just sitting around streaming shows while doing something else, it all adds up. Our dirty data contributes as much to climate change as the airline industry does, according to Britain's Institute of Engineering and Technology. But what can we do about it? Cliff DeWitt is a tech guru and current chief technical officer at Altron Nesta. We're hoping he has the answers. When we think about carbon emissions, we think about the airline industry, like I just said, or, burning fossil fuels for energy. But who would have thought the little photo shoot eNCA and I have before the show actually contributes to carbon emissions? Explain that to us, Cliff.
Hi, thanks, and thank you very much for having me. Yeah, it's very interesting if you kind of look at the rise of computing and where it's got to. I think, as you rightly said, most researchers are saying that our computing infrastructure now uses more than what we do in global air travel. And I guess the reason is that we're all embracing it, like you say, the little photo shoots that we do, all the emails that we send, all the Instagrams and Facebook updates that we do, those all just take a bunch of computing cycles. And I guess the global demand for computing and online resources is just growing every single day. So it just all adds up to the massive amount of energy that computers use in our day-to-day lives.
So this has been termed dirty data. Talk to us about some of the dirty data habits we might not realize we have and just how we can lead a more sustainable online life.
Yeah, so it's actually it's a great question, and let me just break it down a little bit for you. So if you kind of look where computing is actually storing or creating CO2 emissions, and I guess that's really what this is all about: is how do we all play a part in helping save the climate change that is becoming very evident even in our day-to-day lives. There's two really major big points. There's what we call the operational data, which is how computers use electricity every single day to run. So what does it cost to run them every single day? And I think there, as a society, there as an industry, we're making great strides. Many of the big guys, the Apples of the world, the Microsofts of the world, are running their data almost on 100% sustainable power. So today, Facebook is 100% sustainable. Apple is. Microsoft has made a commitment that they will be 100% sustainable by 2030, which means at the end of the day, all of the power to run those servers is coming out of sustainable energy. As we break this down, we realize the dirty part of this is still the manufacturing side. So, all of that energy that is required to produce our smartphones, those servers that we use, the networks that we use, that's where most of the emissions are coming from. And that is a really, really hard thing to get out the system, if ever. So really, I guess a couple of tips on this is a couple of things that we as just normal users could think about was, first of all, think about where you use your devices, especially things like notebooks and desktops. Notebooks use a considerably less power than desktops do. So if you switch to a notebook, if you have the opportunity to do that, you are going to save some power. Think about the times that you leave your computers on, especially in our country where we are energy constrained. An average desktop uses a very small percentage of the power where it's in sleep mode or hibernate mode versus in running mode. So when you walk away from your machine, maybe think about putting it to sleep or turning it off. And especially at night, turn those screens off, just save that little bit of power. That'll make a huge difference at the end of the day.
Well, Cliff, you talk about the big technology giants switching to sustainable energy, but what about the small businesses and the small little firms where you're storing emails and information and photographs? How can they make a difference?
Yeah, great question. So I guess it's all just consciousness, right? Because as I've said, all of those computing resources are available, and the more we use them, and we don't often see the costs of using them. So like you rightly said, storing that email or sending that large attachment, as small as it does have an impact on the carbon footprint we have. So I guess a little tip there is think about the stuff that you store and think about the stuff that you send. If it's not strictly necessary, by thinking about the computing resources that you use, you will make a difference ultimately to the carbon footprint you have on the Earth. The research says roughly every email is about 1.8 grams of carbon we put in the air. So if you kind of want to put it into context, sort of every email that you send is about 1.8 grams of carbon. So if we all kind of play our part in thinking about what we do, what we attach to our emails, it will make a huge difference.
All right, Cliff DeWitt, a tech guru, thank you so much. Delete those unwanted emails and photos. And I'm going to have a conversation with eNCA Larson because it takes about 8 photos.
Why
before
are you doing this to me on a Friday? Like, why?
8 photos before we find one that she likes. Do you delete the other 7? Is my question. Do you? I hope you do.
Sometimes.
I think she got the message.
I don't know why you're being like this today.
Just making sure. We're trying to save the planet, eNCA Larson.
Yes, we are.